Golden Child's sister did awful stuff to herself and now regrets consequences. But mom demands I do it to myself to make it fair, so I took my revenge. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Throwaway account because my family knows my main. Also, sorry for the long post, but this situation is absolutely insane, and I need to get it all out. TLDR at the bottom, but honestly, you need the full story to understand how messed up this got. So this whole mess happened about a month ago, and I'm still processing everything. I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here we are. Also, heads up, this story has a wild ending that I definitely didn't see coming when this all started. Okay, Reddit, let me paint you a picture of my absolutely dysfunctional family before I get into the main story, because you need context to understand just how crazy these people are. I'm Emma, 17 female, and I live with my mom, Sarah, 44 female, my dad, Roberto, 46 male, and my sister, Madison, 15 female. Dad works as an electrician for the city and makes around $78,000 a year, which is pretty decent for where we live. You'd think we'd be comfortable, right? Wrong. Because my mom and sister are literally the most materialistic, entitled people you'll ever hear about. Let me give you some examples of how messed up the dynamic is in my house. When Madison wanted the new iPhone 14 Pro Max last year, the $1,200 one, mom convinced dad to buy it for her birthday, even though her old phone was perfectly fine. When Madison wanted those ridiculously expensive Lululemon yoga sets that cost like $200 per outfit, mom took her shopping and bought her 5 of them. When Madison decided she needed a whole new wardrobe for sophomore year, they dropped probably $2,000 at the mall in one day. Meanwhile, I've been working part-time at Target since I turned 16, making $13.50 an hour, just to buy my own clothes and school supplies. I asked mom once if I could get some money for new jeans, since mine had holes in them, and she literally said, "You have a job, Emma. Time to learn financial responsibility." This was right after she'd spent $400 on a purse for herself the week before. Madison has always been the golden child, and mom has always made it super obvious. Madison gets whatever she wants whenever she wants it. She's never had a job, never had to save up for anything, never been told no in her entire life. She's basically a spoiled brat who thinks the world revolves around her, and mom just enables it constantly. I, on the other hand, am treated like the family disappointment, even though I get better grades, work part-time, and actually contribute to household chores. It's like they see me as this inconvenience they have to tolerate until I turn 18 and move out. So that's the background. Now for the hair disaster that started this whole mess. Madison has always had this absolutely gorgeous jet black hair. I'm talking Disney princess level beautiful. Thick, shiny, goes down to her mid-back. She's always gotten compliments on it, but never seemed to appreciate it. She was always complaining that it was boring or too dark, and constantly talking about wanting to dye it. About 6 weeks ago, she became obsessed with this TikTok influencer who has platinum blonde hair, like white blonde, almost silver. Madison decided that's what she wanted and started begging mom to take her to a salon to get it done. Now, anyone who knows literally anything about hair knows that going from jet black to platinum blonde is incredibly difficult, time-consuming, and expensive. We're talking multiple sessions over several months, probably costing somewhere between $800 to $1,500 total. It's basically the most extreme color change you can do. Mom actually looked into it and got quotes from a few salons. When she found out how much it would cost, even she balked at the price. She told Madison they'd have to wait and save up for it, maybe do it over the summer. But Madison, being the impatient, spoiled brat that she is, decided she didn't want to wait. She'd seen some YouTube videos of people bleaching their own hair and thought, how hard could it be? This happened on a Saturday night while I was working a closing shift at Target. I usually work Friday and Saturday nights because the pay is a little better, and I was there until about 10:30 p.m. When I got home, I immediately knew something was wrong because I could smell this awful chemical smell as soon as I walked through the front door. I found mom in the kitchen on the phone, pacing around frantically. She was calling different emergency salons trying to find someone who could see Madison immediately. When she saw me, she just shook her head and pointed upstairs. The smell got stronger as I went up to the second floor. Madison's bedroom door was closed, but I could hear her crying inside, like ugly sobbing. I knocked and asked if she was okay, but she just screamed, "Go away!" through the door. I went to the bathroom to brush my teeth, and that's when I saw the evidence of the disaster. There was hair everywhere, and I mean everywhere. The sink, the counter, the floor, even some on the walls somehow. It was all different lengths and colors, ranging from black to this horrible orange-yellow color. There were empty bleach boxes in the trash, and the smell was so strong it made my eyes water. I realized Madison had tried to bleach her own hair, and it had gone horribly, horribly wrong. I actually felt bad for her at first because I could only imagine how devastating that must have been. The next morning, I got the full scope of the disaster. Madison finally came out of her room around noon, wearing a beanie pulled down low, but you could still see the damage around the edges. It was honestly shocking. Her beautiful long hair was completely destroyed. There were sections that were burned off right down to the scalp, other parts that were maybe an inch long, and some weird longer pieces that looked like straw. The parts that hadn't completely broken off were this terrible brassy orange color, with patches of black that the bleach hadn't touched. She looked absolutely awful, and the worst part was that you could tell she knew it. Madison has always been really vain about her appearance. She spends like an hour doing her makeup every morning and is constantly taking selfies. Seeing her hair like that was probably her worst nightmare. Mom was being super dramatic about the whole thing, acting like someone had died. She kept hugging Madison and saying things like, "Don't worry, baby, mommy will fix this, and we'll find a way to make it beautiful again." She was also shooting me these weird looks like somehow this was my fault for not being there to stop it. Madison kept touching the destroyed parts of her hair and starting to cry again. She kept saying things like, "I'm so stupid, and I can't let anyone see me like this, and my life is over." Part of me felt sorry for her because she was genuinely devastated, but another part of me was thinking, well, what did you expect would happen? The whole scene was honestly pretty pathetic. Here's this girl who's had everything handed to her for 15 years, and the first time she tries to do something herself, she completely ruins it. And instead of learning from it, she's just expecting mom to swoop in and fix everything like always. Dad tried to be supportive, but I could tell he was frustrated too. When he saw the mess in the bathroom and found out how much hair care products she'd wasted, he made some comment about thinking before acting, which set Madison off crying again. The worst part was that Madison refused to leave the house. She called in sick to school on Monday and Tuesday, claiming she had a stomach bug. She wouldn't even come downstairs for meals, just stayed locked in her room feeling sorry for herself. By Wednesday, Mom had finally managed to get Madison an emergency appointment at this really expensive salon downtown called Lux Hair Studio. It's one of those places where a basic cut and style costs $180, and they cater to like wealthy housewives and Instagram influencers. I had to work that afternoon, so I couldn't go with them, but Mom kept texting me updates throughout the day like I was supposed to care about Madison's hair crisis. First text, "At the salon now, stylist is assessing the damage." Second text, "This is worse than we thought. They might have to cut most of it off." Third text, "Madison is crying. They're trying to find a solution." I didn't respond to any of them because honestly, I was busy actually working while they were dealing with the consequences of Madison's stupidity. When they finally came home around 6 p.m., I was doing homework in my room. I heard the front door slam and then Madison's footsteps running upstairs, followed by her bedroom door slamming. Then I heard Mom on the phone with Dad, and she did not sound happy. Apparently, the consultation alone cost $75, and the stylist had basically told them that Madison's hair was damaged beyond repair. The bleach had literally fried the hair shaft, causing it to break off at different lengths. There was no way to fix it or even it out without cutting most of it off. The stylist, whose name was apparently Stephanie, had recommended doing a reset cut, which basically meant buzzing almost all of it off and letting it grow back healthy. She said trying to work with the damaged hair would just cause more breakage and make it look even worse. Mom had apparently pitched a fit about this, demanding that they do something to save Madison's hair. She kept saying things like money is no object, and we're willing to pay whatever it takes. But Stephanie explained that some things can't be fixed with money. Chemical damage is chemical damage. In the end, they decided to go with the buzz cut because there literally wasn't any other option. The whole thing ended up costing $450 minus $75 for the consultation, $200 for the cut, and another $175 for some special shampoos and treatments that were supposed to help her hair grow back healthier. $450. That's more than I make in 3 weeks of part-time work. All because Madison couldn't be patient and wait to get it done professionally. When I finally saw Madison later that evening, I was honestly shocked. She looked like a completely different person. Her head was basically shaved, maybe a quarter inch of hair left all over. You could see her scalp and everything. She looked like she was going through chemo or something. She'd been crying so much that her eyes were all puffy and red. She kept touching her head like she couldn't believe the hair was really gone. It was actually pretty sad to see, even though it was entirely her own fault. Here's where this story takes a turn from stupid teenager makes bad decision to what the actual hell is wrong with these people. It was the Sunday after the salon visit, and I was sleeping in because I didn't have to work until later. I'd been planning to do some homework and maybe hang out with friends that afternoon. I was having this really nice dream when suddenly I felt someone shaking my shoulder. I opened my eyes and Mom was sitting on my bed, fully dressed, with this weird, determined expression on her face. It was like 8:30 in the morning, which is super early for a weekend, especially since Mom usually sleeps until at least 10 on Sundays. Emma, honey, I need to talk to you about something important, she said, in this overly sweet voice that immediately put me on guard. Mom only uses that tone when she wants something. I sat up in bed, still half asleep, and mumbled something like, "What's going on?" She took a deep breath and said, "Your sister is really struggling right now with her new look, and she asked me to talk to you about something." I'm thinking, okay, maybe she wants me to help Madison pick out some hats or something. Or maybe she wants me to be nicer about the whole situation. I can do that, even though Madison brought this entirely on herself. But then Mom drops this absolutely insane bomb. Madison was wondering if you would consider cutting your hair short too, so she doesn't feel so alone and different. I literally stared at her for like 15 seconds, thinking I must have misheard, or that I was still dreaming. There's no way my mother just asked me to cut off my hair because my sister screwed up her own hair, right? But nope, she was completely serious. She was sitting there looking at me expectantly, like this was a totally reasonable request. For context, my hair is my pride and joy. It goes down to my lower back, it's thick and healthy and shiny. I've been growing it out for 6 years, ever since I was 11. I spend time every morning styling it. I use good products that I buy with my own money, and I get tons of compliments on it. It's honestly probably the thing I'm most confident about regarding my appearance. And my mother is asking me to cut it all off because Madison can't handle the consequences of her own actions. Are you serious right now? I asked, because I genuinely couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mom immediately got defensive. Emma, your sister is going through a really hard time right now. She's embarrassed and self-conscious, and seeing your beautiful long hair every day is making her feel worse about herself. I pointed out the obvious. Mom, Madison did this to herself. She chose to bleach her own hair even though you told her to wait. Why should I have to suffer because she made a bad decision? That's when Mom started getting that entitled look on her face that I knew meant trouble. It's just hair, Emma. It'll grow back. This would mean so much to Madison during this difficult time. It would take years to grow back, I said, getting more upset. I've been working on growing my hair out for 6 years. You're asking me to throw that away for what exactly? So Madison feels better about ruining her own hair? Mom rolled her eyes, actually rolled her eyes at me, and said, "You're being so dramatic. It's not like you do anything special with it anyway. You just wear it down most of the time." This was completely untrue, by the way. I curl it, I braid it, I put it up in different styles. I actually spend more time on my hair than Madison ever did on hers. But apparently none of that mattered to Mom. The answer is no, I said firmly. I'm not cutting my hair. When I kept refusing, Mom's sweet facade completely dropped and she started showing her true colors. She said I was being incredibly selfish and that I clearly don't care about Madison's mental health. She actually had the audacity to say, "Emma, you never do anything to help this family. The least you could do is make this small sacrifice for your sister." Small sacrifice? 6 years of hair growth is a small sacrifice? I started getting really angry at this point. Then she pulled out the guilt trip tactics. Madison specifically asked for you to do this because she looks up to you as her big sister. She thought you'd understand what she's going through. If she looked up to me, maybe she should have asked for my advice before destroying her hair. I shot back. Mom didn't like that response. She got this nasty look on her face and said, "Fine, Emma, but don't come crying to me when Madison won't talk to you anymore. And don't expect any help from me when you need something." That felt like a threat, which made me even angrier. She was basically saying that if I didn't mutilate my own hair to make Madison feel better, I'd be punished for it. After Mom left my room, I thought that would be the end of it. But oh no, these people were just getting started. About an hour later, Madison herself came into my room. She'd clearly been crying again. Her eyes were all red and puffy. She was wearing a beanie pulled down low to hide her buzzed head. She sat on the edge of my bed and started with the waterworks. "Emma, I know this is a lot to ask, but I'm really struggling right now. Every time I look in the mirror, I want to cry. And when I see your beautiful hair, it just reminds me of what I lost. I actually felt bad for her in that moment, which I think was the point. But then she kept going. If you really loved me as your sister, you'd help me through this. It would mean everything to me if we could go through this together. When I still said no, she started getting manipulative. You're so lucky, Emma. You have naturally pretty hair and you don't even appreciate it. You just take it for granted. I don't take it for granted, I said. I've been taking care of it and growing it out for years. Just because you decided to destroy yours doesn't mean I should destroy mine too. That made her start crying again. She said I was being mean and that she thought I would understand. Then she ran back to her room and slammed the door. Within 10 minutes, Mom was back in my room, furious. How could you be so cruel to your sister when she's already hurting? She came to you for support, and you just made her feel worse. The next few days were absolutely miserable. Madison wouldn't speak to me at all. She'd walk right past me without acknowledging my existence. When we were in the same room, she'd make these passive-aggressive comments like, I guess some people only care about themselves. And, it must be nice to be so selfish. Mom was even worse. She started making constant snide remarks about my hair. Things like, some people are so vain, and I raised one daughter to be caring and one to be self-centered. She'd say these things just loud enough for me to hear, but pretend she was talking to herself. She also started being extra nice to Madison in front of me, like she was trying to show me what I was missing out on by not supporting my sister. She'd offer Madison special treats, compliment her on other things, basically overcompensating for the hair situation. The absolute worst part was when Dad got involved. Mom had obviously been working on him, because he came to me one evening and suggested that maybe I could meet Madison halfway by cutting my hair to shoulder length instead of keeping it long. It would still be a nice length, he said, but it would show Madison that you care about her feelings. I was so disappointed in him. Dad had always been the more reasonable parent, but now he was buying into Mom and Madison's manipulation too. Dad, why should I have to change anything about myself because Madison made a bad choice? I asked. He got uncomfortable and said something about family harmony, and sometimes we make sacrifices for the people we love. But I could tell his heart wasn't really in it. Mom had obviously pressured him into talking to me. The tension in the house became unbearable. Madison continued her silent treatment, which honestly was kind of a relief because at least she wasn't actively being mean to me. But Mom more than made up for it with her constant passive-aggressive comments. She started giving me extra chores as punishment for not helping Madison. Suddenly, I was responsible for doing all the dishes, taking out all the trash, and cleaning the bathrooms every week. When I pointed out that this wasn't fair, she said, well, if you're not going to contribute to this family emotionally, you can at least contribute physically. She also started forgetting to buy things I needed. Like when I asked her to pick up more shampoo for me at the store. She'd come home with expensive products for Madison, but claim she forgot about mine. When I needed money for a school field trip, she said the family budget was tight, even though she'd just bought Madison a $150 wig the day before. The wig thing was another whole drama. Mom decided that Madison needed several different wigs to help her feel confident while her hair grew back. They went wig shopping and came home with 3 different ones: a long blonde one, a medium brown one, and a short red one. The total cost was over $400. Madison was acting like these cheap synthetic wigs made her look amazing, posting selfies on Instagram with captions like, "New look, new me," and "Sometimes change is good." It was so fake and performative. But Mom was eating it up, commenting on all her posts about how beautiful and confident she looked. Meanwhile, I'm still working part-time just to afford basic necessities, while they blow money on wigs to fix a problem that Madison created herself. The breaking point came about 2 weeks into this whole mess. I was in the kitchen making myself a sandwich for lunch when Mom came in and started making her usual snide comments. Oh, look, Emma's actually in the common areas of the house. Usually she's too busy admiring herself in the mirror. I ignored her, but she kept going. You know, your father works very hard to provide for this family, and all we asked was for one small gesture to help your sister feel better. But I guess some people are just too selfish to make even the tiniest sacrifice. That's when I finally lost it. What sacrifice are you making, Mom? You're not cutting your hair. You're just demanding that I do it. And it's not a small sacrifice. It's 6 years of growth that would take 6 years to get back. She got this nasty look on her face and said, "Watch your tone, young lady. You live under our roof and we provide for you." "You provide for Madison," I shot back. "I buy my own clothes, my own school supplies, my own everything. The only thing you provide for me is a roof over my head, and you act like I should be grateful for the bare minimum. If you don't like it here, you're welcome to leave when you turn 18, she said coldly. "Trust me, I'm counting down the days," I replied. That conversation made me realize just how toxic and messed up my family really was. They were willing to destroy our relationship over hair. Hair. They cared more about Madison's vanity and ego than they did about treating me fairly. This is where the story gets really good, and honestly, I still can't believe how perfectly everything worked out. So after that awful conversation with mom, I was feeling pretty hopeless about my situation. I decided to post about it on Reddit to see if I was going crazy or if this situation was as messed up as I thought it was. The response was overwhelming. Literally thousands of people were telling me that my family was completely out of line and that I was absolutely right to refuse to cut my hair. People were saying things like, "This is insane," and "Your mom is emotionally abusive," and "Madison needs to learn that actions have consequences." Reading all those responses made me feel so much better about standing my ground. But what really changed everything wasn't the Reddit post. It was what I discovered by accident a few days later. I was looking for tape in Dad's home office. He said I could grab some for a school project, when I noticed a stack of papers on his desk that didn't look like his usual work stuff. The top paper was a credit card statement, and the amount caught my eye because it was really high. Now, I wasn't trying to snoop or anything, but the number was just so shocking that I couldn't help but look closer. It was Mom's credit card statement, and the balance was over $8,000. $8,000 on one card. I probably should have just left it there, but I was so curious that I flipped through a few more papers. There were statements from 3 different credit cards, all with huge balances. When I added them up in my head, we were talking about over $22,000 in credit card debt. But here's the really crazy part. When I looked at the charges, it was all stuff for Mom and Madison. Designer clothes, expensive salon visits, makeup, purses, shoes, jewelry. There were charges from stores I'd never even heard of, probably because they were too expensive for normal people to shop at. I started taking pictures of the statements with my phone, not really sure what I was going to do with them, but knowing this was important information. As I was looking through them, I noticed that some of the payment dates were weird. Like, it looked like payments were being made from different accounts. That's when I found the bank statements that were mixed in with the credit card bills. Mom had been moving money around between different accounts, including taking money out of what looked like Dad's savings account to make minimum payments on her credit cards. I'm not great with financial stuff, but even I could see that this was really bad. We were talking about tens of thousands of dollars in debt that Dad probably didn't know about. Plus, Mom had been basically stealing from his savings to cover it up. I sat there in Dad's office for like 20 minutes just staring at these papers, trying to process what I was seeing. My mom, who had been calling me selfish for not wanting to cut my hair, had been secretly spending our family into massive debt to fund her and Madison's shopping addiction. I took pictures of everything and then put the papers back exactly where I'd found them. I spent the rest of that day thinking about what to do with this information. Finally, I decided to text Dad while he was at work. I sent him a message saying, "Dad, I found some papers in your office by accident and I think you need to see them. Can you call me when you get a chance?" He called me about an hour later during his lunch break. I told him about finding the credit card statements and asked if he knew about the debt. There was this long silence on the phone, and then he said in this really quiet voice, "What debt?" I explained what I'd seen, the balances, the charges, the weird payment schedule. Dad was quiet for a minute and then said, "Emma, I need you to send me pictures of those statements right now." So I did. I sent him pictures of all the credit card bills and the bank statements showing money being moved around. About 10 minutes later, he called me back and he sounded furious. "I had no idea about any of this," he said. "Your mother told me she was being careful with spending. I've been wondering why our savings account balance seemed low, but she said it was because of normal household expenses." Dad came home from work early that day, which never happens. I was in my room doing homework when I heard the front door slam, and then I heard him call Mom into the kitchen. Madison was at a friend's house, so it was just the 3 of us. I couldn't help but listen from the top of the stairs as Dad confronted Mom about the debt. At first, she tried to deny it. Then she tried to downplay it. Then she started making excuses. "It's not that much money, Roberto, and most of it is necessary stuff for the house and the girls." $22,000 on designer clothes is necessary? Dad asked, and I could hear the anger in his voice. Madison needed clothes for school, and I needed some professional outfits for... Professional outfits? Sarah, you don't have a job. The fight went on for over an hour. Mom kept trying to justify the spending, saying things like, "We can afford it," and "The girls deserve nice things." But Dad wasn't buying it, especially when he realized she'd been taking money from his retirement savings to make payments. The best part was when Mom tried to turn it around and blame me. She actually said, "Well, maybe if Emma was more helpful around the house and didn't cause so much stress in the family, I wouldn't need retail therapy to cope. Dad shut that down immediately. Don't you dare try to blame Emma for your spending problem. She's the only one in this house who works for her own money. The next few days were absolutely incredible to witness. Dad had immediately canceled all of Mom's credit cards and put her on what he called a strict household budget. She was getting $150 a week for groceries and absolutely nothing else. Madison's allowance got cut from $100 a week. Yes, she was getting $100 a week for doing literally nothing, down to $25. No more shopping trips, no more expensive makeup, no more designer anything. The change in their attitudes was immediate and hilarious. Suddenly, Mom was being super nice to me, asking how my day was and offering to help with my homework. She kept making comments like, I hope there are no hard feelings about that silly hair thing. And family is so important, don't you think? Madison was even more obvious about it. She came into my room the day after Dad's budget announcement, looking all sad and pathetic. Emma, I've been thinking about everything that happened, and I realize I might have been a little unfair asking you to cut your hair. A little unfair? That was the understatement of the century. I was just so upset about my hair that I wasn't thinking clearly, she continued. I hope we can go back to being close sisters. Then came the real reason for her visit. Also, I was wondering if you could help me figure out how to shop on a budget. I've never had to do that before, and you're so good at finding nice things for cheap. I almost laughed out loud. The same girl who had called me selfish for not cutting my hair was now asking for my help because she couldn't afford her usual shopping habits. But the best was yet to come. About a week into the new budget situation, Madison's hair started growing back, but it was coming in all patchy and weird looking. Different sections were growing at different rates, and the color was uneven where the bleach had damaged it. She desperately wanted to go back to that expensive salon to get it professionally shaped as it grew out. But with her new $25 a week allowance, the best she could afford was great clips. She actually came to me with tears in her eyes, asking if I could lend her $200 to go to the good salon. I'll pay you back, I promise. I just can't go to school looking like this. I looked her dead in the eye and said, Madison, I thought hair was just hair and it grows back? That's what you and Mom kept telling me when you wanted me to cut mine. The look of shock and embarrassment on her face was absolutely priceless. She realized I was throwing her own words back at her. Besides, I continued, I think great clips will do a fine job. It's not like you need anything fancy. You just need a basic trim to even it out while it grows. She started crying and said, but everyone at school will see that I go to a cheap salon. Madison, most people go to cheap salons. The only reason you think it's embarrassing is because you've been spoiled your whole life. Welcome to how the other half lives. She ended up having to go to Great Clips, and honestly, they did a decent job evening out her hair. It looked way better than the patchy mess she had before, but she was mortified that she couldn't go to her usual expensive place. The funniest part was watching Mom try to maintain her lifestyle on $150 a week. She kept complaining that it wasn't enough for a family of four, but Dad pointed out that I bought my own food half the time anyway with money from my job. She tried to negotiate for a higher budget, promising she'd be more careful with spending. But Dad had done the math and figured out that she'd been spending an average of $800 a week on non-essential stuff. $800 a week. That's more than some people make in gross income. You can have a higher budget when you get a job and contribute to the household income, Dad told her. Until then, you get enough money for groceries and household necessities, and that's it. Mom actually had the nerve to say, but Roberto, I can't work. I need to be available for the girls. Emma works and still manages to keep her grades up and help around the house, Dad replied. Madison is 15, not 5. She doesn't need a full-time babysitter. Within 2 weeks of the budget being implemented, both Mom and Madison were treating me completely differently. Mom started asking for my advice on where to shop for groceries to stretch the budget. Madison wanted me to teach her how to do her own nails instead of going to the salon. The best moment came when Madison finally admitted that asking me to cut my hair had been wrong. She said, and I quote, I realize now that I was just upset and trying to make everyone else as miserable as I was. That wasn't fair to you. Still not a real apology, but it was the closest thing I was going to get from her. Mom never did apologize for the hair thing, but she stopped making snide comments about my appearance. In fact, she started complimenting my hair, saying things like, your hair looks so healthy, Emma, and you take such good care of yourself. It was obvious that they were both scared I might tell Dad about other things they'd said or done. They had no idea what other information I might have, so they were being extra careful to stay on my good side. The whole situation taught me that sometimes the best revenge is just letting people face the natural consequences of their actions. Mom and Madison had been living in this bubble where they could spend whatever they wanted and treat people however they wanted, without any repercussions. But when Dad found out about the debt and put his foot down, suddenly they had to live in the real world like everyone else. And they hated it. My hair is still long and beautiful, by the way. I actually started taking even better care of it after this whole mess, just because I realized how much it means to me. I get compliments on it all the time, and now when people ask about my hair care routine, I tell them the secret is not destroying it with bleach, because you're too impatient to wait for professional help. Madison's hair is slowly growing back, but it's going to take at least 2 years to get back to where it was before she ruined it. Every time she complains about it, I remind her that she's lucky it's growing back at all. Some people who damage their hair as badly as she did end up with permanent bald spots. The family dynamic is still weird, but it's better in some ways. Dad has more control over the finances now, which means we're actually saving money for important things instead of blowing it all on designer clothes. Mom got a part-time job at a local boutique, which she complains about constantly, but which has been good for her. And Madison is slowly learning that she can't just expect everything to be handed to her. She got a babysitting job with our neighbors and is actually earning her own spending money for the first time in her life. As for me, I'm counting down the days until I graduate and can move out. But at least now I know that when I do leave, it'll be on my own terms, with my long, beautiful hair intact and my dignity preserved.